All right. We all good? Everyone can hear? Everyone can hear? Yeah? Aspect ratio? What are you guys talking about? Does everything look okay? Kurakami's saying I forgot he was coming. Yeah, I'm pretty on time. Woke up. I was very efficient this morning. Woke up, read the chapter, cried reading the chapter, took a shower, then showed up here. Tom says, is this a haircut? No, I just got out of the shower. Balder the God Gamer says, Morj, you're going to be my white noise so I can sleep tonight. It's so weird to me still that, like, it's nighttime for you guys, and for me, I'm getting the day started. New time zone has allowed Morj to be able to be only 15 minutes late. No, it's not a haircut. It's that my hair is just wet. That's basically it. All right. Bapim124 says, Morj, does the One Piece remake have any intentions of finishing? Yeah, I feel like the One Piece remake is probably going to be designed to be catching up to the series, or like it's not gonna finish out the anime before the original anime does. Like, it's not gonna finish out the series before the original anime does. But I imagine it would end within 4 years of the original anime, because the point is to pace things like faster, right? Within 5 years of the original anime, maybe. Keenan, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 15 months. Enough to make a grown man cry. Yeah. This chapter, there were 2 chapters in Kuma's flashback that legitimately had me in tears, which hadn't happened to me reading One Piece. Like, there's moments that, like, hit me emotionally for sure, but I hadn't, like, legitimately, like, cried reading a One Piece chapter since, like, the Marineford, like, since, like, Whitebeard's death, I think. So, Ginny's death chapter, and then this chapter was such a beautiful chapter. I think, like, the whole page of Kuma running, and Vegapunk's final words about what he meant to everybody whose lives he affected, I think it really brought together the beauty of what Oda had done with this whole flashback. Because it really is a very, very unique flashback, even in One Piece. It's much more ambitious, much more layered, much more comprehensive. He really tackled something pretty bold, considering it's just like normally a flashback, we're just getting a snippet of a character's life, but this was just like taking time away from the main events of the story to just read the entirety of Kuma's life as though he's like the main character, basically, from start to finish. Watching the events of the story unfolding through Kuma's point of view was so good, man. Tearjerker last couple pages. Yeah, and especially like his words to Luffy, like the things he was thinking. I love that we got to hear what he was thinking when he was teleporting Luffy away, because it's exactly what we know he was thinking, that, you know, this is for your own good and everything like that. But just hearing those thoughts while we're seeing like the Straw Hats' expressions, what they're going through, etc., while Kuma's thinking like, no, I'm trying to, like, you're the one that's going to save the world one day. It was very, very powerful. Breezy2X, thanks for the 2. Now that it's over, where do you place the flashback? I think it's the best flashback that Oda's ever done. I think it's a step above. Like, I'm sure you can find other flashbacks. If you find other flashbacks personally sadder or something, that's totally understandable. Everything's, subjective. I think, at least in terms of what he accomplished here, it's just a much, much more in-depth look into a character's life. Like, it really was just Kuma's whole life stories that we got to follow from start to finish. Like, literally from birth through death, essentially. I thought that was, I don't know, like, the final pages of this chapter summed it up, right? We got to see the entirety of everything and all the people that he affected, all of his meaningful relationships and everything like that. I thought that, yeah, this is just, to me, it's just another level in terms of what he attempted here. I don't know if Oda's ever going to top it, to be honest, at this point in the story, because we're in the final saga. What other characters remain who would get a flashback that's as meaningful as this? Because this whole time, like you count the mysteries going on in One Piece, etc., Kuma himself was just one long-running mystery storyline for as far back as I can remember. Just like, why is this guy's mind being erased? Why did he turn himself into the world government? Why did he do this to the Straw Hats? Like, oh, he's a Revolutionary Army member? Like, just more, like, it's a character that Oda keeps littering throughout the story, like, little bits of surprising information that always had us wanting to learn more. So that just tells you that this was a guy that we really, Oda really had a very complex story written around. I don't know if there's anyone remaining that's something like that. Like maybe Dragon, but I don't think I can imagine myself like having the same sort of emotional reaction reading through Dragon's backstory. I don't know. Timothy McQueen, thanks for the 5. Hey Morj, while listening to you, I'm rereading my favorite chapters to prepare a ranking with my friend. Off the top of your head, what is your top 5? Oh, that's really hard, dude. Top 5 favorite chapters in the entire story. Chapter 398 is probably my favorite. So that's I Want to Live and Luffy declaring war on the world. Those two moments together in that chapter. 398 is probably my favorite. Whitebeard's death is huge for me. Nothing Happened is a really powerful chapter. I think that there's a lot of story I think that there's a lot that Oda was able to do with just that one chapter. It's hard, man. Maybe Nami's Help Me chapter. I'm not sure. In the anime, probably my favorite episode would be Luffy and Usopp's interactions at the climax, Fanny's Lobby, and then Jet Gatling. But that's not my favorite in the manga. Although it's still really good there. Gear 5th is a maybe. It's just really cool. And I want to put in Kuma's flashback in there somewhere. I think the Ginny one or this one, I don't know. But then there's lots of chapters from flashbacks that are assorted flashbacks that are really good, like Chopper and Hero Look, closing of that. But this tops either. I think Ginny's up there for sure. Top 5. I think I'd have to go through. I was wanting to do a top manga chapters of 2023. We might do that next Monday's stream. I might give that a shot next Monday's stream. The only tricky thing is, I don't know if I'll be able to do the setup properly because I can't stream very well from here in Malaysia. So I might wait till I get home, maybe next Thursday or something like that. We do that. So yeah, keep a lookout. Top One Piece chapters of 2023. We'll see. Good question though. So I hope I'm not falling behind here. Also, let's get the stream likes up. Justin Holland, I don't even know what the stream likes are at. Let me take a quick peek. I hope it doesn't crash the stream. Let's get the stream likes up to at least 100. Justin Holland, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 14 months, dude. Everything is connected. Maybe it's more like free will and fate working together. Luffy is free will, his allies are fate. I still want more. Out of Oda's ideas of free will and fate as to how they pertain to Luffy, because Luffy is such a free roaming character. How does that play into the idea that everything seems to be working in conjunction, almost destiny-wise, to make things work out for him? Can't wait for what happens next. Big hopes for Luffy's growth. Yeah, I mean, I really, really hope that, with whatever Kuma's going through right now, it seems like he has some glimmers of ego based on the final words explained in this chapter. I really hope that he's able to see Nika at the climax of this. So, I mean, Kuma's such a phenomenal character. I think easily he's up there for best written character in One Piece. I'm sure you can make arguments for plenty, but I would put Robin there as well. But then the tricky thing is that with Robin, it's one of those things where it's Robin at the time that her story finished at Enies Lobby, I was like, this is the best written character in One Piece. But then she stuck around for so much longer with very minimal sort of additional character stuff. So it's kind of like Kuma goes out on a high note here. If it was more okay, Kuma, we got his amazing story and everything like that, but then after that he's around for 600 chapters with very minimal stuff done with his character beyond that, then that kind of affects how you perceive his character. So it's do you view the best written characters in One Piece as kind of what they're at their peak? The peak of their story, the peak of their story focus, or comprehensively? I don't know. Gunner455, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 7 months. W content, thank you. The chap solidified it top 3. I think I said thank you because I'm automatically used to. I assume you're talking about the chapter here. W content is the chapter. Just automatically, I'm oh, W content. Oh, thank you. But obviously, we're talking about the chapter here. This chapter solidified at top 3. If he stays dead, it's top 1. Yeah, I really hope that he stays dead because it's just not stays dead, but dies here. I hope that we don't get a whole fixing of Kuma, where he gets his mind back, his consciousness back, and happily ever after, I think it's far more powerful. Like, if that were to happen, then it pretty much negates a lot of this chapter for me. But I don't think that's going to happen. The scene of "You will save the world" to Luffy gave me goosebumps reading it. Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments in this chapter. That moment, and then obviously the last 3 pages, of course. Last 3 pages were amazing. Duck20, thanks for the 5. I love that Vegapunk is saying life is full of troubles and then showing Kuma running through his life. Yeah, just the ideas and the imagery and the dialogue throughout this flashback was something special. I mean, it's something that I think was, like, I always like when One Piece exceeds my expectations, which I feel like hasn't happened as, like, in terms of, like, hype and plot twists, it always can. But in terms of just, like, actual, like, literary writing and meaning and emotional creativity, I think this is the first time it's happened in that way in a long, long, long time for me. And there's so many small things you can pick apart from this chapter, from the flashback as a whole, but that is a great example. JS, thanks for 5. LMAO, Lils is crying. L, get over it, bro. For real, no cap 100. Stormfox, thanks for the 2. Saturn being a scientist clears things up. Yeah, Saturn being a scientist, I think, I feel like him being a scientist is big because it means, like Vegapunk can't have been bullshitting him that much. So, like, we're all expecting that Vegapunk has some betrayals, like some fail-safes and stuff in mind to get around what he was told to do with the world government. I think it makes sense that it might be more complicated than Vegapunk or us expected if in fact Saturn is able to actually verify the validity of a lot of the things that Vegapunk is doing. And Saturn's been around for at least 50 or so years, like 50, 60, like 100 years or something like that. He's been around for a long, long, long time, right? So he's probably accumulated a lot of scientific knowledge. He's probably not the same raw intelligence as Vegapunk, otherwise he would be doing the same creations, but he's got to know what he's talking about. He might be one of the best scientists in existence, right? RCP-245, thanks for the 5. Bonnie joining the crew seems even more likely after this chapter, with her inheriting Kuma's will and memories. I mean, I think so. I've put out videos on those in the past. Breezy2X, thanks for the 2. What will the Blackbeard pirates and the robot do? Dude, I don't fucking know about the robot. The robot's fucking confusing to me. It's some mysterious energy source or whatever. The robot, the thing that Vegapunk closed towards the beginning of this arc with some limitless energy source or whatever as his dream, I feel like that's got to be tied to the robot in some way, but beyond that, I don't really know. And then that being tied to Luffy in some way also seems likely, like the Nika Fruit Awakening. What will the Blackbeard pirates and the robot do? The Blackbeard pirates, though, that's a little easier. I wonder if they might try and steal... Could they steal Seraphims? I don't know. I don't think... Seraphims are conveniently in bubbles. I'm trying to think, what would they steal? Mother Flames? York? What if they stole York? That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. I like that idea. I'm going to think on that one. If the Blackbeard pirates stole York, that could be really cool. Because they got to steal something, but it's just like, what makes the most sense? Nick Page, thanks for the 5. 1082, when Buggy told Crocodile and Mihawk that they are losers if they don't want to go after the One Piece, best chapter of the year for me. Depends, everyone's got their own agenda. But I think that was a phenomenal Buggy chapter. Like, that was, like, a phenomenal chapter just because who the fuck expected Buggy to have such a significant, like, actual character moment? And it felt good to see, like, you know, this guy's been the punching bag for Crocodile and Mihawk for so long. It felt good to see, like, the roles reversed for a moment where, you know, he's almost talking down to them, rightfully so, that, you know, they should take a look inwards for once and kind of consider, like, are they living up to their own reputations and potentials? Mr. MMF2, thanks for being a Yarnco tier member for 14 months. Hey, Mork, who's your favorite character and the best written character in your opinion? For me, it's Reiner and Meruem, respectively. Dude, that's too difficult, honestly. Favorite character, best written character in general. I think that's really difficult. I love Meruem too. Meruem is probably my favorite Hunter x Hunter character. I would have to go series by series, and then I'd have to go series by series and pick out. and then kind of pull and be like pull everything together and be like, okay, who do I think is the best written or my favorite out of all of them? Favorite character is ultimately going to be like favorite is. I feel like if I were to pull everything together, I think favorite character would be a One Piece character. I think best written would probably not be a One Piece character, just because there's other series that are more character focused, even going beyond like outside of the sphere of anime, manga, etc. as well, but even within the sphere of anime, manga. So it's tricky to say that, so I can't give you a straight answer right away. And the other thing is like best written is very, very difficult to determine. One thing that does bother me is like, this was random, but I was seeing like, the chapter's really good. So I went on Twitter to see what people are saying about the chapter. Really good's an understatement, but like this is something I've been seeing. It's like, oh, who suffered more? It's like people like I've been seeing it recently. It's like who suffered more than like okay, the one I saw today was like who suffered more, like Kuma or Guts. And like in past weeks, I've been seeing things like who suffered more than like Yuji Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen and stuff. It's like it's such a shallow way. It's like why is that even right? It's such a shallow way of thinking. It's almost like people are arguing like, well, if a character suffered more, that makes them a better written character. That's like a 10-year-old's mentality of like or way of looking at fiction. Like it's not difficult to make characters suffer. Like suffering, like it's easy to stack on more suffering. Oda could have had like. Oda could have thrown in more things that happened to Kuma over the course of this backstory. That doesn't make it better writing, right? It's how the stories, it's how the characters developed around that suffering, the way the authors able to make you feel and connect to the character's suffering. Those are the things that matter. It's just like, you can always make a character lose more or suffer more. It's like, how do you make Kuma's backstory even sadder? It's like, well, what if Ginny had 2 kids and like along with Bonnie and one of the other baby died and like 2 years old from the jewel disease or something? Like you can just always throw in something else, It's not hard to think of another bad thing to happen to a character. The character that has suffered the most has nothing to do with who is the best written character. It's almost like I don't know. It's almost barely a relevant discussion. Like it's just like you could have just written in, oh yeah, Kuma got raped as a kid too. How crazy is that? Like it's not hard. Anyone in chat can think of like 10 more bad things that could have happened to Kuma over the course of this backstory. Like it's the character itself that's being crafted around all of this, right? How they're developing the ideas that are coming through them. That's what matters, right? Tom, VP pulling the lever was a powerful panel. Yeah, I think that was the drawing of that was very dramatic with the way Oda's been using lighting and shading so far throughout this. I think that was a great way to incorporate it at the very end because you want the moment where Kuma's ultimately dying, right? But he doesn't actually die is the problem. So Oda had to think of a way to make the moment that it happens, where he essentially loses his consciousness, feel like a death moment, like a dramatic, climactic finishing moment. So drawing it in that manner, where it's a lever that's being pulled down and Vegapunk collapsing, I thought that was a really, really good way to do it. Fatingo, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 15 months. And sorry if my voice is still a little bit not good. Still not feeling too well. Fatingo, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 15 months. With Kuma's memories ceasing to exist, with Bonnie touching them yet not disappearing at all because they're now part of her, is so beautiful and bittersweet. You will never be forgotten. Yeah, I mean, I feel like so many of the ways that Kuma's abilities like came in handy, if that makes sense, like for character stuff, for plot-based stuff, throughout the story. It's one of the most versatile uses of a devil, probably the most versatile use of a devil fruit I've ever had for like narrative purposes in the entire series. And that is like the perfect way to pass on Kuma, like literally inherit Kuma's will, his memories, etc., and just pass that on to Bonnie. I think that was like such a beautiful way to do it. Cosmo, thanks for the 5. What do you think about the possibility of S-Bear containing the switch that Vegapunk wanted to put into Kuma? That's an interesting... Honestly, I'd have to reread the chapter again to understand exactly the switch. I wouldn't... So you're saying, like, S-Bear also could be toggled back and forth, being able to be controlled or not controlled? I wonder how Bonnie would feel seeing S-Bear. It's interesting because the Seraphim all contain the personalities to a degree of the originals. So S-Bear does have tremendous potential to be something more than we might expect. Caleb Brown, thanks for the tube. Bonnie going to join the Revs and take her mom's old spot. I think that's definitely a maybe. She might also dislike the Revolutionaries for maybe not doing as much, maybe in her mind, to help Kuma as they could have. Flip side, if people remember, Bonnie and Sabo had an interesting interaction in Malaysia. It seemed important that their paths cross and they get to meet each other and something like form some semblance of a connection right there. So I wonder if that does come into play. That's a good point. Muhammad D. Luffy, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 12 months. For me, this is the best backstory because it's my first time reading weekly one of Oda's classic backstories. Oden was good, but this is the best. Yeah, I mean, I think if you like lore stuff, which we all do, but if that's what your priority is for a backstory, then like Oden's backstory is obviously phenomenal. If it's emotional storytelling, I think Oden's backstory is one of the weaker ones in the story. Although I do think the final moments of him holding the scabbards up was really, really cool. It's not like a tearjerker type thing for me. I do think that you're lucky that this was the first time that you got to weekly read one of Oda's like truly classic backstories because you caught up at a good time, if that makes sense. I think I'm trying to think. I think like Laws was probably the last really good backstory that I got to read weekly. And I think that one did. So I'm happy I got to read this one, the Kuma one, because Laws was the last classic backstory that I got to read weekly, and it didn't like hit me as hard as it hit a lot of other people. And I was like, I had my own reasons that I've talked about at length in podcasts, and I think even in this about that, why I don't find Laws to be that sad personally. For me, like I don't put it like top 3 for me. And a little part of me was like, is it actually those reasons, or is it because I was reading it weekly instead of binged? But then I got to read Kuma's backstory weekly, and I was like, holy shit, this really, really affected me throughout from start to finish. And I have this as my favorite backstory. So with Law's backstory, now I know in my head, oh, it's not just because I read it weekly. That's just not a backstory that really did that much for me, basically, no matter how you slice it. Reflexy, thanks a lot. Looking back, One Piece's adventure really was long. Yeah. Yeah, of course, man. It's crazy, crazy long. I still think we got 200 chapters to go, roughly. A's96, thanks for the 5. Great question. Missed last stream. How are you enjoying Malaysia? Done any touristy things? So far, I think I skipped a couple supers. I'll catch them in a sec. Or I skipped one. I'll catch it in a sec from Breezy2X. So far, yeah, I'm really liking Malaysia because I'm in Penang, and I didn't know that it's such a beautiful country because it's the only place I've been to that is kind of set up where you get the islands and the ocean. Or sorry, you get mountains, like lots of very green mountains, and the ocean basically side by side. I've never been to a place like that, and the city itself is very nice. Not like very crowded or anything like that. You get a tremendous variety of cultures, it seems like. Food is good. The market culture is cool. Like, you can just walk downstairs and go and get, like, bakery stuff if you want, or, like, juice or smoothie. Like, there's so many things that you can just get. So I'm really liking it. Touristy things. We went up Penang Hill the first day. Saw the, like, rainforest-type habitat up there. Went to some market-type stuff. Went over the bridge from Penang to the mainland and back yesterday just to kind of do a tour of the area. And then today I know that my family has like a bunch of stuff planned. I just don't know what it is. We've also all been a little bit sick, so we haven't been able to get out quite as much as we liked, I think. Breezy2X, thanks for the 5. Surprise power scaling question out of nowhere. In a 1v1, are you betting on a Kaino or Kaido? If it's a Kaino from Marineford, or like pre-time skip, I guess. Like basically the Kaino that fought Aokiji that was equal to Aokiji over 10 days. If I assume a Kaino is the same strength as them, I'm taking Kaido, no question. Because it's essentially like asking who you got, Kaido or Aokiji, right? I don't know why some people put like a gap between a Kaino and Aokiji, because there's not a gap. It's the same thing. Same as some people put a gap between Kaido and Big Mom. There is no gap. They fought for 3 days. They're equal, right? You could say maybe Kaido's like half a percentage stronger. You could say Kainu is like half a percentage stronger, but they're shown to essentially be equal, right? For comparing to any other character, you treat them as essentially equals, right? So would I take a Kaido or Aokiji? Obviously, I'd take Kaido. Flip side, if we are to believe that a Kainu might have gotten stronger if he has developed Conqueror's Haki or something like that, because a Kainu seems to be framed as a character that is still growing or has his own story, the way many of the Marines do. If a Kainu is unlocked Advanced Conqueror's Haki, then now I would bet on a Kainu because a Kainu has, obviously extremely strong Devil Fruit, extremely capable as a fighter overall, was already able to give Yonko a run for their money without Conqueror's Haki. So if he's gotten it now, and just based on his role in the story, is very possibly one of Luffy's final, last 2 opponents even, I would bet on a Kainu at that point. Kurokami Najima says not 3 days, 1 night, 3 days was Roger and Whitebeard. Oh, my bad. I'm mixing them up. But either way, I don't think it was 1 night. I think it was longer than that. I mean, how long do you need them to fight before declaring that they're basically essentially equal, right? Japanese Jim, thanks for the 5. Do you think Kuma is the most OG warlord and Dofi the most evil? Maybe intentional to introduce together? Mihawk was there, maybe the most neutral. That's a fun little way of spinning it. You kind of got like the devil, the angel, then Mihawk is somewhere in the middle. I don't know if any of that was I don't know if I'd call any of that intentional, just because the way One Piece works, it's like 1,100 chapters long. Characters get introduced in all sorts. Like, you see characters in so many different situations and contexts, etc. At some point, you'll see something and be like, oh, was this symbolic? When it doesn't necessarily mean Oda was thinking of something symbolic in that context, right? You kind of need to, it's entirely possible just through chance it was Kuma and Doflamingo first introduced. If I were to think, right, it makes sense that Kuma and Doflamingo, just logically thinking, there's not really, I guess you could have, okay, let me think. Why Kuma and Doflamingo first, right? Because I feel like just logistically it made sense. Kuma, Doflamingo, Mihawk. Because you want to bring Mihawk back, he's the warlord that we already know, right? Then Kuma and Doflamingo, Jinbei's a surprise for later on, right? Because we don't want to find out Jinbei's type of character too early yet. Boa Hancock's already also a bit of a surprise because of her interactions that she's going to have with Luffy at Amazon Lily. So then, no, but I guess you could say, you could have just had Boa Hancock show up earlier. No, but it just wouldn't fit her character at all. It doesn't fit Doflamingo's... No, it does... Okay, it fits the characters of the ones who showed up in the sense that, Doflamingo's involved in the business affairs of the world, if that makes sense. That's kind of his thing, as is. So he might be interested. Hancock would never show up because she wouldn't show up to a summons, right? I feel like Gecko Moria showing up could have made sense. Right? I feel like Moria could have shown up. And it wouldn't have been that weird. So, yeah, maybe it was intentional that, I'll do Kuma and Doflamingo first. I don't know. Omega God Mode X says, Akainu is too angry to die. Imrano says, are you sick, Morj? You look tired. Get some rest. I am very sick, and I'm pretty tired. I finally got a good night's rest last night, but it's not enough because I've been, super sleep deprived for the last, since I got on the plane, basically, to come here. Did not get a good night's rest for a long time. This last night I did get some good sleep, though. Insatiable Hunger, thanks to the 5. What makes One Piece so good? It doesn't have the best animation or fights, design, drama, nor the best main character writing due to protagonist. What makes it like Naruto or Bleach? I don't think One Piece necessarily has to be the best at any single one thing. At one point, I grew up with Zelda games, and one time I looked up, what makes Zelda games so good, and I was kind of looking at, people's comments, and, people were like, well, it's not the best for, combat. It's not necessarily the best for exploration. This is before Breath of the Wild, okay? It's not necessarily the best for puzzles. It's not necessarily the best for side quests. It's not necessarily the best for, art design and stuff like that. It's not necessarily the best in any one category, but there's no game that brings so many great things together in the way that Zelda does. Like, there's no single thing that packages it all, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be number one at any of this, but like, it brings everything together into one really good package. So I'd say that One Piece has, really good character writing, as we see with this latest flashback. It's probably the best at world building in the manga anime sphere, obviously, right? It has phenomenal long-term story planning, foreshadowing, story structure, narrative structure, build-up, developing plot threads, payoffs, plot twists, mysteries, etc. Has good action fights, etc. It's phenomenal in its moments at producing moments of great drama and emotion. It just does so many things. Like, to me, it's kind of like, it's hard to find, like you said, designs. It has phenomenal designs. Maybe not the best designs of any series you've ever seen, but it has some of the best, right? Great comedy, great character dynamics. I feel like, you can just, there's so many areas you can go through, and like One Piece really isn't bad at, like, it brings such a wide variety of things into one series that I'm like, it's more like, what is One Piece not good at? Because there's very few things that it's not good at. Aether, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 9 months. Kuma was smiling when he died. I say he's an honorary D. Pawed his way into our hearts. Yeah, I mean, like, so Odin also smiled when he died. I wonder if this is just, it's two ways, right? Like, either Oda's basically saying, like, these characters have the spirit of, the same spirit that the D-Tribe members have, or the D-Tribe might be wider than we kind of think, and there might be more characters that are members of members of the D-Tribe than we might expect. I don't know. Peanut, thanks for the 2. Merry Christmas, Morj. Chapter made me cry. Yeah, me too, man. It was a lot to read first thing in the morning. Also, let me give you guys a heads up real quick. Let me check one thing. Shoot, I hope this doesn't crash the whole thing. Unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to do about, let's get the Streamlights up to 200 first. This is unfortunate, but I'm only going to be able to do, like my family's trying to do stuff for, our vacation time, basically. So I'm only going to be able to do, probably another 40 minutes from now. So it's a relatively shorter stream, but it's just the way it is. I'm sorry, guys. Rohan, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 2 months. It's not quite comparable, but One Piece is something similar to a modern-day Odyssey. Yeah, I mean, it is, but just, I find it way more interesting than the Odyssey, but, like, obviously the Odyssey came, like, how many centuries earlier, right? So One Piece is, like, a modern-day Odyssey, just with a lot more shit in it, right? Ashish Rashali says, I beg to differ, Morj. I think One Piece has the best character writing of all time. I think in some regard, like, depending on what you value, I think that's a perfectly, like, it has phenomenal character writing for the characters that it goes hard on, for sure. Alyut05, thanks for the 5. Dog passed away today. Oh, I'm really sorry, man. I'm really sorry. As you might know, my dog, we had to put him down earlier this year, so I hope this wasn't, like, a crazy surprise or anything to you. So when I finally sat down to read the chapter, I was ready to bawl like a baby, and that's exactly what I did. Holy shit, man. I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't too much of I hope it didn't come out of nowhere. Hope you were prepared for it, but I'm sorry, man. Ashish Rasali says, you're sick? Yeah, I'm sick. I don't have a fever, so that's the good thing, so I've been able to go around and do everything, but it's like borderline. It's one of those where, you're just not feeling good in your voice, in your throat, face, and a little bit lightheaded at points. Jordan Vance asks, Morj, do you think it's a goof that Chainsaw Man is doing a movie for its second arc and not an anime? Isn't it too soon for a movie? Your thoughts, please. I talked about this a little last stream. I don't think that this next arc that Chainsaw Man is adapting for a movie is well suited to be a movie. I think that there's only one arc I can think of in Chainsaw Man in Chainsaw Man Part 1 that would be ideal for a movie, and that would be the next arc after this one. So, I don't know, it's weird. I think it's really not suited to be a movie, personally. So my worry is that they do this arc, because it's a good arc. It's a good arc. It's just not what you would expect from an anime movie, I think. The type of stakes, spectacle, action, etc. So I'm worried a little bit that Chainsaw Man might do this movie. The movie's then maybe not as successful as something like the Mugen Train movie or Jujutsu Kaisen season, like at the Chapter 0 or whatever, Episode 0 movie. I'm worried it's not as successful as those, and then that might hurt its chances for getting a well-produced second season, or just hurt its second season in general. I don't know. Red Hound Neg says, 11 out of 10 chapter, Oda outdid himself. For sure, man. Like, this is something that's like, how do I put this? So sometimes I'm like, man, I wish Oda could recapture some of his writing that he did at these points in the story, like earlier points in the story. I'm like, I wish I could see that again. This was really, really special for me, this Kuma flashback, because it's not like he recaptured what he, in my mind, used to do more effectively. It was something totally new and like more evolved than anything he'd ever done before. So it's like, for the longest time, I've been hoping, like, can he just get back to writing like that again? And it's like, here's something like that, but like way better. So it's so much more than, like, you know, it's like so much more than you could have asked for or wanted. So yeah, I think this Kuma flashback will always hold a very special place for me. Steins Gate? Steins Gate's probably my favorite anime. Why are we talking about Steins Gate? It's probably my favorite anime that I don't also consume as a manga. Does that make sense? Like I don't count Hunter. Well, I guess I would count Hunter x Hunter as my favorite anime, but I read it first as a manga, and I think of it more as a manga. So Steins Gate is my favorite one that's just that I've only experienced as an anime. Sham M says, what is the chapter of the year? I think that there's a lot of great contenders for that this year. Because, I mean, this year, even if we go back towards the beginning, like, you've got great stuff like the raid on Hachinosu, right? You've got a lot of really good writing stuff at different points throughout this year. Kuma's flashback will probably take the cake, either this chapter or the Ginny chapter. We'll do a stream to figure that out, for sure. I'm thinking either next Monday I'll try a stream here, or next Thursday I'll just do a stream for best chapter of the year. Because there's no how to say this? My question is, it's a question to you guys. There's no chapter next week as far as I know, right? In fact, there's no chapters for a minute, I think. Bad Galleys, thanks for the 5. Mork, are you going to try to bag a foreign baddie while you're there? Also, is this top 3 saddest One Piece moments? I'm just going to have a good time with my family, man, but I appreciate this. I appreciate the suggestion. Is this top 3 saddest One Piece moments? I think the flashback as a whole, we all knew this moment was coming. I think the flashback as a whole is like the saddest One Piece flashback for me. For me personally, I think. It's like, you know, this chapter, Ginny chapter, even his opening chapters. Oh, we get a 2-week break? 2-week break? Is there a chapter next week? Please. Is there a chapter next week? That kind of affects a lot of things for me, so would love to know. No official chapter next week, right? But I guess we'll find out. Chillax Rita says, I don't think this breaks top 5 for me. Maybe not even top 10. Yeah, it's relative for, like, subjective for everybody. Jacob says, Egghead has just been phenomenal. Yeah, so this is one of the things I've talked about before, which is that at this point in the story, the only thing that I think is missing for me personally, for the final saga to become my favorite saga in One Piece, is Straw Hat focus. If we can get more for the Straw Hats and their stories and their roles in given arcs, that's all. That's it. That's the only thing. Because everything else is just 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. Funny name. Kihano Reeves, thanks for the 5. Hey Morj, happy 1-year anniversary to saying the Wano analysis will be out before the end of the year. Merry Christmas and hope you're having fun. Hey, I did make some progress on limited progress on the plane. But there's a plane right back, so we'll see. There's a leaked chapter. No chapters to do the one of it, Stala. I'll try. I'll see. The one of it is still coming. Guaranteed. Don't worry about that. But the timeline is it's hard to see. Kurokami Najima says, I want to see Dritz's opinion of Egghead. I think Dritz would like lots of aspects of it, but he's not been up to date as far as the last I've spoken to him. Like, I think he's not currently reading One Piece as far as but it's been a long time since I've checked in with him either. So I don't know. But I think he would like a lot of aspects of it. It's Jump's breaks, not Oda's. Beanie Head says, do you think there will be a Marine arc considering how many Marine characters there are? Like an arc focused on the Marines? No. An arc where the Strats are fighting the Marines? I think that'll be part of the final war. I think that happens before the Celestial Dragons, and I think it'll be heavily like Marine character focused, which could be one of the best just the best best written arcs like character wise for the story. Breezy2X says, will you be in Brago's top 30? Maybe. I don't know. I gotta check in with him. Yeah, like the stream. Let's like the stream. Let me see what the stream likes are at. Yeah, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 200. Yeah, Tala says Marine Civil War coming, don't worry. I think that's like legitimately a possibility because Sword exists. So like, this is something I've talked about in the past, but basically Sword exists obviously. But then on top of that, you've got, like it's been established that the Marines are still going to exist after all is said and done, right? They're not trying to get rid of the world government necessarily. They're trying to get rid of the Celestial Dragons. So it's more like defeat Celestial Dragons, reform the Marines. Seems like the goal. Adam CR, thanks for the 2. X-Guild at Laugh-Tail. Luffy and Zoro get Dream at the same time. Cross-Guild at Laugh-Tail. Luffy and Zoro get Dream at the same time. Yeah, I could see that. So, like, that was a discussion coming out of, like, the when will Mihawk... Like, the last video I did about, like, who's Zoro going to fight? When will Mihawk be, when will Mihawk go down? The earliest prediction that I had was when I said, like, all the way back when I did the video about Shanks being, like, Elbaf being Shanks' arc. The video I did back then, I talked about how I also thought that Zoro defeating Mihawk was a possibility at Elbaf. I predicted that it would happen for Zoro then, and I thought that Usopp would beat Yasopp then. A lot has changed since that period of time, so now I'm less confident in something like that happening, especially because a lot of people might feel that it's too early for Zoro to beat Mihawk. Let's see where Zoro's at the end of Egghead. If he, like, it's one of those things, like, I'll put it this way. If we see Zoro fighting Kizaru by the end of Egghead and doing well, then I could see him fighting Mihawk much sooner than expected. Elbaf still seems like a long shot, but I don't know. Jaldi Joestar, thanks for the 2. Thoughts on Sandman stalking Oda plus chapter next week? What do you mean stalking Oda? Chapter? So is there a chapter next week? Is it confirmed there's a chapter next week? Like a chapter that's going to leak? Duck20, thanks for the 2. The Warlords have been written so well. Yeah, I think there's not a single Warlord. Crocodile's great, Mihawk's great, Doflamingo great, Kuma great, Jinbei obviously. I'd say out of the original 7, it's just Moria is probably the least developed, and even he's got something. And I think Hancock's been turned into a bit of a simplistic character at this point. I think she could still get more, like, she's become more of a gag character at this point, I feel. Okay, so there is a chapter next week. That's crazy. And then I guess you guys are saying 2-week break. All right, chapter next week. Holy shit. All right. Yeah, I guess I'll get back and we do the chapter for the week. All right, that's great. Do you mean Wright says Mihawk great question mark? Okay, I guess that's true. Objectively, like, Mihawk hasn't been developed even as much as Hancock, but I think he's still, yeah, I think I just take it for granted that I think of Mihawk as a great character, even though he hasn't. Mihawk is probably the least developed of the OG Shichibukai now that I think about it. You guys are right, I just didn't think about that. Because to me, like, Mihawk's such a cool character, and, like, he's had such a role in the story, and, like, a lot of the things he's, said and taught, etc., seem to carry a lot of weight, but yeah, that is true. That's true. Yeah, you guys are right. Okay, so next week we do have a chapter. That's good to know. Shoot, I hope I'll be able to stay awake to do the chapter stream, because, yeah, it's going to be tricky. Double Arrow Lee says he has a black sword, it's enough. Yeah, because by next Wednesday, next Thursday, right, I'll be back in United States, but I'll be jet lagged as fuck. So we'll see. Probably have to just tough it out, stay awake for the chapter stream. Insatiable Hunger says, so Gorosei is a man of science, ? Where's the technology, ? Is he a cyborg? I don't think he needs to be a cyborg to be a man of science or man of technology. Most scientists are, in fact, not cyborgs in the real world. I think we just got used to it with, like, Vegapunk doing all these body modifications and shit. Shaman M is asking Morj, why didn't the Marines try to capture Kuma while he was protecting the Thousand Sunny, since Bonnie broke the agreement? Because I think that at that point, like, Kuma's brain is literally gone, so there's not much more they can do. Like, they can't really do anything to him at that point. Like, he's just a walking object, basically. He's just a robot. Breezy2X, thanks for the 5. What are your expectations for Elbaf, and do you think it's the last Allen before Laugh-Tale? So, I mean, before Egghead, none of us predicted Egghead, right? None of us were like, okay, they're going to go to... We didn't even know Egghead existed, right? Most everybody was on the train that Elbaf is the next island after Wano. That was the belief, right? Egghead was a very pleasant surprise. It turns out that it's great that we didn't go directly to Elbaf right after Wano. So Egghead was a very pleasant surprise. I feel like Elbaf being next just makes the most sense. Just makes the most sense, but it's also just like, it's very hard to predict at this point Oda's moves, because he doesn't want the story to be in too linear, like too expected of a path, even in the final saga. I would say that because things seem to be set up in Elbaf, such as Shanks being there, Kid's destroyed fleet and such being there, and the very high possibility that even like Law and them end up having to go to Elbaf. I think that Elbaf being next is a very decent possibility. It's also just like the story needs to wrap up slowly. It needs to get in the process of wrapping up. So Elbaf, Laugh-Tale, Final War. These things have to just happen at some point or another, because Egghead in itself, right, like it started around it's been 40 chapters in Egghead, right? It's going to be another 5-10 at least before it wraps. So let's say Egghead's like a 50-chapter arc out of nowhere. None of us expected Egghead to even be an arc. 50-chapter arc for Egghead. 50-chapter arc for Elbaf. Yeah, like the story just needs to start wrapping up, because you can't keep adding more arcs in, I think, at this late in the game, unless you want it to go like 250 more chapters or something. Dick So Small I Piss on My Balls says, what kind of exercise do you think each Straw Hat does to train? I don't think that I think only Zoro trains, and I think now Zoro doesn't train, right? Because he's kind of past that point of like lifting weights to train. If we were to do a fun exercise, I would say like Zoro does like or let's take from the top. Luffy probably just does stretches. Funny, right? Zoro probably does like bicep curls. I think Nami. I feel like Nami does like Pilates or something like that, or yoga or squats or something, and then Sanji probably does like leg press. I don't know. This is getting tiresome. All right, let's. I'm not gonna go through each one actually, because I'm like, too many of these are gonna repeat. I feel like Frankie does bench press, or like forearms exercises. Thinking Frankie does bench press because like he tried to stop that train. Madfish, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for a month. How many major flashbacks do you think there are left in the series? Void Sentry. Oh man. Void Sentry, God Valley, Dragon. I'm guessing Shanks, maybe Mihawk, maybe Akainu. I think I'm right there with you. I think Void Sentry is guaranteed. I think God Valley is guaranteed. I think Dragon is very, very likely. Then when it comes to Shanks, Mihawk's a big question mark. Mihawk, if we get a flashback, I feel like it would be cool if we got a more complicated, like a more in-depth Mihawk flashback. If I had to guess, I feel like it's more likely we get something very brief, like, you know, like a Baby 5 level flashback, like just a quick insight into young Mihawk or the things that he thought, or like maybe some really brief thing, right? I think Shanks' flashback is decently likely, because we don't understand a lot of his character, like why he's doing the things he does. So even if not necessarily for like a tragic past, although his past is also becoming important, like being the son of the child of a celestial dragon. So I think Shanks' flashback is going to happen, I think. Akainu. I think Blackbeard I would throw in there as well. I think Blackbeard flashback is pretty much guaranteed. I think Akainu is a decent shot. I'd say out of everyone you listed, Mihawk's maybe the least likely to get a flashback, but I could see him getting a flashback that's like a short one. So if we were to run from the top, I would say the lore-based flashbacks would be Void Sentry, God Valley. Then the individual character flashbacks are Dragon, Blackbeard, Shanks, and then maybe Akainu, maybe Mihawk. That's my feeling right now. Nick Page, thanks for the 5. Morj, do you think that Blackbeard overtaking Emu and being at the helm of the world government is possible? I just don't think Blackbeard would be at the helm of the world government. If you're saying, like, him being the final villain, taking over that role, I still think that's possible. It's just the chances of it keep going down, in my mind, as the story goes on. Demian writes, as we got Kuzan and Kizaru, we are getting Akainu. You're right. I think it depends on how much you view a flashback. Like what counts as a character's flashback. Because I still don't think we got a Kizaru flashback. I think we just got scenes, like, you know, flashback scenes that happen to feature Kizaru, right? Like, it's about Sentomaru, Vegapunk. Like, there's multiple characters involved. I don't think it was necessarily Kizaru's flashback. I guess I just don't put it in the same light. But we did get Kizaru flashbacks. Does that make sense? Like, I guess when I'm saying, does this character get a flashback, my question is, are they going to get a dedicated section of the story to fleshing out their past from their perspective? Rafael Rizzi Iglesias, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months, maybe an Emu flashback. I feel like that'd be covered in the Void Sentry flashback, but who knows? Who knows? Like, maybe we get one even specifically for Emu. In that case, do we get a Joy Boy flashback? Like, some things... I feel like the Void Sentry flashback would be the Joy Boy flashback. The JM Lou 11, thanks for the 5. What was the 0.1% of Godzilla you did not care for? Both the things that you mentioned. The two things you mentioned. But if I had to say one specifically, it's the first is the main one, and then the second is kind of the annoying thing that adds on to that. I think those two things cheapen the movie to make it something that you could take seriously, I think, that and kind of cheapen it in a way that it feels more cheesy, generic, just like cheesy, generic, corny type movie. Like, I think it definitely lessens it from like a real film to like cheesy blockbuster, which is so unnecessary because the rest of the movie feels like real film, real cinema, as they say, right? But at the end of the day, I thought about it, like, I still value the rest of the movie so highly, and mainly the third act, everything else that happened in the third act, that I just ignore it. It is what it is. And Straw says Kizaru doesn't necessarily need more of his backstory shown. He doesn't, but at the same time, Yeah, he doesn't. He really doesn't. Like, if he's to have a character arc or something like that, I think we got enough for it to happen. Like, we understand where he's coming from at this point, so if he does anything that changes his direction, yeah. Like, we've got the foundation for Kizaru to do something, and we wouldn't just be like, oh, why the fuck's he doing that? Like, why do you have this change of heart? We get it. Yeah, I agree that a character, just because a character is important, doesn't mean they need a fleshed out backstory. But because this is One Piece and that's the way Oda likes to do things, we've kind of come into, like, that's his specialty. That's kind of like, we've gotten into the rhythm of basically, like, if he's really going to flesh out and turn this into a multi-dimensional character, usually a backstory is his favorite way of doing that, and that's where he shines the best in turning a character into what most would call, like, a deeply written character. No, because Keanu Reeves has got to set up the new MonsterVerse. No, because this Godzilla is separate from the existing King Kong Godzilla verse, so a totally different type of movie. Like, this one could have just existed as its standalone film, like Shin Godzilla did, right? Miss Meinstein's Evil says Kizaru still feels like a blank slate to me. Yeah, where I feel like we're at with Kizaru right now is basically like we've seen we've seen glimpses of the experiences and kind of the dynamics he had with other characters before, but how, like, what's going on in here is being kept secret to us deliberately, right? Like, how has that all affected him, and what is he feeling about everything he's being made to do right now? He's only suggested so far that he doesn't like what he's having to do right now. Where the writing can come in is basically, if he has an about turn, we get to see, like, we kind of uncover or dig up basically what's actually going on inside, right? So I think the foundation to establish that he had dynamics with past characters is there, that, like, he enjoyed being with them, enjoyed their company, had some emotional connection with them. And that it's been established that he so far doesn't like having to turn on them, right? The final step is basically like, what is he actually like what is he wrestling with inside, and where do his actual morals or values fall at the end of the day when pushed? Talis says we'll get a Luffy flashback explaining his life from birth to age 6. I don't think we need another Luffy flashback. I think maybe just one thing we could get for Luffy would be basically like if we cut into, so he says that stuff to Ace and Saba, right? That's hidden, right? So what if we got to just cut back to finally hear him, like, say that, like, hear what he has to say, and then, like, explain it a little bit to them so that they understand where he's coming from. Jacob says, nah, Akainu definitely is Kankurosaki. He's formidable and absolutely determined. Yeah, Akainu has one of the strongest wills that we've seen in the story, which seems like Kankurosaki material. And he seems to have, like, vision and, like, very strong vision and goals as to what he wants. It's not necessarily his own ambition, but what he wants the Marines to be like. And he doesn't seem to like having to listen to the Gorosei and the Celestial Dragons. So all of this is Kankurosaki potential, but we still need to wait and see whether or not he has it, because so far it seems like Aokiji doesn't, Kizaru doesn't. I think it's very likely that Akainu didn't either pre-time skip, but he might have developed it since the post-time skip. I think if he had Kankurosaki and Aokiji didn't, I don't think their battle would have gone on 10 days. So I think Akainu has to have developed it in some way. Oh, J-Mun says, Ayo Morj, I got recommended the manga Morj Chainsaw Man video all of a sudden this morning. I haven't watched any of them to avoid spoilers, but potential second chance for that vid. Good luck, bro. The Chainsaw Man video still hurts me, because it was such a, in my opinion, it was, like, arguably the best video I've done. and a lot of the feedback seemed to suggest the same. And it was doing so well at launch, like brand new channel, doing so well at launch, like it was tracking for like well into the 100,000s in terms of views. Like I don't know what the ceiling was because it was just like a straight line up, and then got age restricted, and suddenly all the views just felt like I'd never seen that before happen to any of my videos, because I'd never had to deal with age restriction stuff in my videos because One Piece never gets into that territory. But Chainsaw Man has like some more graphic stuff in every category. It's like the manga panels got it age restricted, and then the entire thing just dead flatlined, because basically YouTube doesn't recommend videos to people's general feeds that have been age restricted. So that was really, really disappointing. If that video gets a second life, that'd be really, really nice to see if YouTube starts recommending it again for some reason, but I can't imagine that would happen unless its age restrictions have been lifted. So I don't know why it showed up on your feed. That's really nice to hear, but I doubt that that's going to change. Ender says, Chainsaw Man video is arguably top one Morj video. Yeah, that one's really, that one hurts me, because I put a lot of effort into that one. And like, to pat myself on the back a little bit, most of the comments on that video are basically saying that that's the best Chainsaw Man video that they've ever seen. Because I've seen other Chainsaw Man video essays. They're generally very, very, they're very, very basic and shallow. Like, Chainsaw Man is so mysterious because of it. Like, I don't know, not actually delving into the ideas that it talks about. Yeah, if that video somehow got age restricted, that'd be nice. Or if YouTube changed their algorithm a little bit to promote age restricted videos, that'd be nice. But I doubt it would happen. Easy2X says, "What's your favorite stream you've ever done?" That's a tough one, because there've been some really fun ones. Like, my memory doesn't go back so far that I can remember, like, even older. I think I'd have to go through all of the streams and kind of remember. And it's tricky because, like, some streams will have, like, topics that aren't inherently that fun. Like, maybe it's, like, a random chapter discussion stream or something. But the stuff that comes out of that stream is really, really fun, or for whatever reason. A recent one that I thought was really, really good was, obviously, the trying to kill every Straw Hat one. I thought that was, like, one of the most fun streams we've done. I recommend going back to check that out if you got nothing to do. This is definitely a fun one, trying to piece together the weakness of each Straw Hat. Yeah, thanks for the kind words about the Chainsaw Man video. Still hurts, but it is what it is. Also, just good to know in the future. Like, sometimes you just gotta learn something, right? So you need a negative experience to learn something. So now I understand how age restriction works. I doubt that would ever affect One Piece and One Piece content. I just don't think it would ever fall into that category. But it's good to know in the future that, like, that stuff can happen to videos, to be more careful going down the line. Aizen says, if Akainu has Conqueror's Haki, he unlocked it in his fight with Aokiji for sure. Yeah, I really like that idea. Like, if that was possible, I really, really hope that that's something that we get a flashback to. Because it would just be so badass to... Because it's like, you get Haki blooms in the heat of battle, right? So if Akainu's going to get a Haki bloom, that... what better spot for him to unlock Advanced Conqueror's Haki than in, like, a duel against someone that he's basically evenly matched with, fighting for the future of the Marines and each trying to impose their will on the future of the Marines. Red Agrid says, the stream trying to guess which historical figure has Conqueror's Haki was fun. Yeah, that was a funny one. That got weird. That one got weird. I think there was like a point where like the list was like Genghis Khan, Hitler, stuff, like all sorts of the worst people in history. Tofi 2000, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 13 months, man. Hi, Max. This chapter made me cry again. I really don't know how Oda keeps doing this. Yeah, this was a phenomenal one. Could not have ended the... Like, I think we were all wondering, like the flashback had hit so many highs, it was kind of like, can he stick the landing? That was something that I mentioned a lot of times. He most certainly did. Although it's a bummer that things aren't paced as I would like, I think the ideas and execution are amazing. Yeah, I think pacing could always be... With Kuma, it's tricky because it's like, the pacing has to be fast because you're covering his whole life. like with, let's say, Robin flashback, ultimately the bulk of the flashback is taking place during a singular event, which is the destruction of O'Hara. So you can move slower with the scenes, the character interactions and stuff. Kuma's flashback did have to go by fairly fast-paced, but I still think Oda didn't really rush it because it definitely went on longer than I thought. Like, there was a series of chapters, I think like the last 3 or 4 chapters, I was kind of like, okay, the flashback, I think the last 3 chapters I kept thinking, okay, the flashback might end next chapter, might end this next chapter. But Oda did draw it out to its, as much as he reasonably could, I think, to its conclusion. Because I think that the flashback was, I think it started 1095, I might be wrong, just saying off the top of my head, so 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. Yeah, it's like a 8-chapter flashback. I think that's pretty good as far as One Piece flashbacks go. I think it had a lot of ground to cover. But I think, yeah, it covered it fairly well. Golden says, Morj, I might have missed it, but thoughts on new One Piece show from WIT? Yeah, I mean, there was a full last stream talking about it, so you can check that out if you want extended thoughts, but I'm really excited because, yeah, in like a few years, once it's out, produced, a couple seasons are out, I'll be able to introduce people to the One Piece series through that anime, and I think that that's just something I've always wanted to do, and I don't think in my life I've ever tried to push people to watch One Piece the anime. I've always like pushed them towards the manga because I know that the pacing gets so bad and the production quality gets iffy at certain points and stuff. So I'm happy that finally I can push someone to watch the anime. Because the One Piece live action is one thing, like that's great, but we all know that it's not it's not the same. It's like it's another version of the story of One Piece, right? But if you want the direct story of One Piece, it's really just the manga and anime that adapt it beat for beat for beat. The manga, of course, is not an adaptation, but the original story of One Piece you can only get through the manga and anime. But I can't recommend people to watch it just because of the way the original anime is. So finally, I have something for people that don't want to read, that want to try One Piece. I can push them to this new anime, hopefully, if it's well produced. But I've heard good things about the studio. Everyone was telling me last stream. It's WIT, not WIT. But then why is it all in caps? Why is it not just WIT? Like, why are the I and T capitalized? Wouldn't it just be, if it's WIT, wouldn't it just be, I don't know. All right, guys. I don't know. And Strahd says, I really wish there were times where having stronger hockey wasn't the end-all be-all. Like, characters could use intellect and ingenuity to outsmart other hockey users who are stronger. I mean, we might see that more in the future. I would love to see, like, a sort of clash where specialties in the hockey were more important. Like, if we got to see someone like Katakuri, who's really good at Future Sight, going up against someone that is really skilled at Rio or something like that, right? Like second level armament or something, and seeing that play out. But I don't think that One Piece is ever going to be written like that because Oda doesn't write fights like that. Yeah, I get that it would have periods in between, but I'm just saying, like, it looks like it's an acronym. Like, usually when you capitalize everything, it's kind of like an acronym. Like, when I say, like, NATO, NATO, I usually don't put periods in between. Like, I would just type NATO in all caps. Usually, like, technically it's supposed to have periods, but there's so many things that we know. Like, when I say USA, I don't put periods between U, S, and A, you know? Rafi DeGoat says, why is Mappa in caps? That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I just don't think Oda writes fights like that. It's not his strength. The only fights where strategy really matters are going to be like Usopp and to some degree Nami fights. And we don't get, like, I think they're deliberately rare because Oda just doesn't have it takes time to write fights that involve strategy. And I think he's focused on a lot of other things, right? One Piece is a more emotion-based series than chess master type battles or anything like that. But I do agree it would be cool if we saw different specialties of hockey clashing with each other, whereas what we've kind of seen instead is like more like, you know, Luffy getting advanced observation hockey, then, you know, he's fighting Kaido, who has advanced armament and advanced observation and advanced like Luffy fighting a guy who has advanced observation, then Luffy gets that. Then Luffy fights Kaido, who has advanced armament and advanced conquerors, and Luffy gets those as well. So it's more like characters tend to have like the far higher up you go, characters have like a complete package, so you don't see the clashing in styles as much. Black Lightning, thanks for the 2. Blackbeard coming for Shanks this year. I don't know about this year, man. I feel like this year we get to see Luffy and... Like, maybe he'll come for Shanks this year, like, come after him. But, like, I don't think Blackbeard takes him out this year. Breezy2X, thanks for the 2. Your favorite fight on manga/anime that's not One Piece? That's a great question. Let me go through quickly. I don't think it's anything from Naruto. I really like Ichigo versus Byakuya. Let me just list off things I really enjoyed. I really like Ichigo versus Byakuya. From Bleach. I like Naruto versus Gaara a lot. Hunter x Hunter. I don't want to spoil. But I don't know if I'd put those as my favorites. I liked Yusuke versus Toguro. Dragon Ball, anything? Shoot, this is kind of hard. I think JoJo's might have my favorite. Might have my longest list of fights I've really, really enjoyed. Jotaro Dio, Jotaro Darby. It depends what you call a fight. Like, Jotaro Darby is a great one. Jotaro Dio. Stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. That's tricky. I have to think about that. That's difficult. I think actually One Piece has my favorite fights, now that I think about it, because I care about the emotion a lot. And, like, Luffy versus Lucci is still my favorite fight because the emotion of the fight moved me a lot. Especially the climax. Gojo versus Blank. Yeah, that was a really good one. Gojo's just a spectacle of fights. Yeah, that is essentially a lot of what what JoJo is. Also, this is random, but there was a Baki fight. It was like, I don't know why I enjoyed this. I thought it was so dumb it was fun. It was like Yujiro versus that old dude in a wheelchair who did Chinese Kempo. Yeah, Luffy versus Lucci will probably always be my favorite fight. I think that's just the way it is. Alright guys, I'm going to call it here. I'm sorry it's a short stream, but not feeling well and like on vacation, so we got some shit to do basically, so sorry. But yeah. Alright guys, yeah, that's it for this, and thanks for tuning in. Hoop says no Chainsaw Man. No, I don't think Chainsaw Man has great fights. I mean, I had one really cool one, like towards, like, when he goes into full, like, the complete lost mind. Well, I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, there's one really cool, flashy one, but Chainsaw Man, the fights don't have, like, the fights go by very quick. They're very fast-paced. The action is cool. The action is definitely very cool, but they usually don't have the emotional storytelling that I really value a lot of these other, like some other fights for, or even just the general drawn-out story nature of a lot of anime fights. Like Jotaro versus Dio isn't a very emotional fight, but it's a very drawn-out battle with a lot of back and forths, which Chainsaw Man doesn't really have. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I am going to... All Might versus All for One. I forgot about that. That is a phenomenal fight. Yeah, All Might versus All for One. Even Endeavor versus that Nomu. And sorry, that's like a minor spoiler, but it's really not a spoiler. I think My Hero has a lot of great fights, actually. Very emotional storytelling that I look to. Like, I think it does that very well in a similar manner to what I kind of like in some One Piece fights. But yeah, that's basically it. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you all later.